Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's September 18th, 2024, and welcome to World Gone Wild. Now, there's lots to cover today. P. Diddler, we're calling him. P. Diddy got arrested and indicted. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today and what that means in terms of the huge Epstein cover up. We've also got pagers exploding in the hands of Israel's enemies. We're going to talk about that. And also, probably one of the most important aspects of today's show is going to be a bizarre connection about the Trump golf shooter that I found just yesterday. Can't wait to show you that as well. Let's go ahead and get started with this. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the channel. So what is going on? Well, remember how anybody who doubted the food supply was called a conspiracy theorist. Remember those years? Well, apparently, they are now admitting that food packaging absolutely does leach into food which we consume. The pathogens then build up in the body, causing all kinds of problems. Let's get into some of these headlines today, you guys. Heart problems, cancers. More than 3,000 chemicals from food packaging have infiltrated our bodies. Hey, this is one more reason to try to grow some of your own food or source it from places that don't do all this packaging, right? I'm finding myself less and less filling up my cart at Walmart anymore. I'm trying to just eat things that don't come in packages. Now, not that we should be going around all paranoid and everything, but a lot of this stuff happened when a lot of us were younger. We didn't have any control over what we ate. And then people, get older and they can't figure out why they have migraine headaches or why they have something wrong with their gastrointestinal system. And you have to wonder if some of this stuff was caused by all these chemicals building up in the body. And this is the Washington Post. It says here, shrink wrap seals around a piece of raw meat. Takeout containers filled with restaurant leftovers, plastic bottles filled with soft drinks. These are just a few of the types of food packaging that surround humans every day. And this new study, released Monday, shows the chemical toll of all that wrapping. Now, are we supposed to assume that they had no idea that this could happen? Of course they knew this could happen. They probably did it intentionally. Why can't we sue the makers of this packaging for bodily harm? Well, good luck with that. It says researchers from Switzerland and other countries discovered that of the roughly 14,000 known chemicals in food packaging, 3,600 have been found in the human body, whether in samples of blood, hair, or breast milk. These chemicals include metals, volatile organic compounds, PFAs, phthalates, and other known to disrupt the endocrine system. And then we wonder why we have a bunch of people running around not understanding what their gender is. If something's interrupting the endocrine system, this is insidious. The inventory of chemicals can help future research into health risks. Well, I think they probably already knew. There are known hazardous chemicals that are known to be linked to adverse human health outcomes. So these are in the headlines today. And there's actually a second story here. They show pudding. So I believe that they knew. I think this is pretty much the same story, talking about the same study. Now let's switch gears here a little bit, because all of you already know all this, right? That's why you come to alternative media, because channels like this and others have taken the charge to warn people about food packaging long before the powers that be admitted it. But for a lot of people, it's too late. But look at this. Work from home. Wait, don't work from home. With these people, there is no moral ground. They just keep swaying with the wind, these controllers. And this, to me, has to be one of the most glaring examples of how this whole climate nonsense is just that, nonsense. Because here they are taxing us and spending our tax dollars. What is it? $700 billion that was spent under the Biden administration for climate change. That's our tax dollars. And here, Amazon is mandating people to come back to work. Now, understand that these aren't the people that are on the assembly line, right? A lot of that's automated now. If you didn't know that, robots and things take care of this. But every once in a while, you need to stick a person in there. They're not talking about those people. They're talking about administrators who were working from home. Now, why wouldn't you just let anybody that can work from home? Why wouldn't you let people do that? So that if they truly believe that the climate was in danger, wouldn't that make a direct impact on vehicle emissions, for instance? Commute, not to mention the risk of traveling to and from work, insurance, claims, all those things, right? But yet, they don't put their money where their mouth is. They don't really care about the environment, because if they did, they would brag about this. Instead of saying how green a company could be, they always have this, who's more green? We have zero emissions, blah, 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 right? Well, wouldn't they put that, wouldn't they brag about this? 95% of our workforce no longer comes to work. We're about as green as it gets because nobody's working. It's all robots. Wouldn't someone brag about that if this really mattered? But apparently it doesn't. Wow. So what's more important to these people is making their companies rich rather than their claim to want to cut down on greenhouse gases. Employees aren't too happy about this. You send people home to work, they get comfortable. You can be comfortable. You don't have to dress up every day, put a uniform on, deal with people. And obviously they were still getting the job done because they didn't get fired. So why send them back to work? Wow. Let's get into this next story here. Well, apparently they finally released photos of the remains of the Titan submarine. Here it is, you guys. All broke and cracked and imploded. Now, I would have thought that this would look even worse than it does, but here it is sitting on the bottom of the ocean. I don't know if they removed the bodies or what, but this thing imploded last summer, and they're barely sending us pictures of this at the bottom of the ocean. The Titan submarine. Wow. Now, guess what? A 50-year-old spacecraft, we should call it, they're claiming is still alive. The 47-year-old Voyager 1 spacecraft just fired up thrusters it hasn't used in decades. Oh, that's because a 50-year-old technology can definitely communicate 15 billion miles. And the craft magically avoided all space debris and has infinite power with 1970s technology. This is what they want you to believe. So you keep throwing your money into these black hole projects, pun intended. The 47-year-old Voyager 1. Let's read this. Engineers at NASA have successfully fired up a set of thrusters Voyager 1 hasn't used in decades. To solve an issue that could keep the 47-year-old spacecraft from communicating with Earth from billions of miles away. When Voyager 1 lifted off to space on September 5th, 1977, no one expected that the probe would still be operating today. As a result of its exceptionally long-lived mission, Voyager 1 experiences issues as its parts age in the frigid outer reaches beyond our solar system. So we're supposed to believe that this spacecraft, 15 billion miles away, that they're able to even communicate with this thing. This is crazy, you guys. This is absolutely insane. So, obviously, some people still believe this. I think I left a comment on this. Here's the comment I left. It said, come on, billions of miles communication loop with 1970s tech, no damage from space debris, infinite thruster fuel, forever in space rubber. Oh, because they talk about the rubber parts on the spacecraft and how that still works. Wow. So, whatever. Now, this all begs the question, and this is the reason why I even bring up a story like this. Why would they want the general public to believe that this spacecraft is still working? Well, because I believe that they will at some point deploy the alien psyop. That the Voyager has finally communicated with alien life. And it'll be subtle at first. They'll say they received a signal that the Voyager intercepted and relayed to Earth, 20 billion miles away. And that the signal is intelligent. And that'll be maybe one of the first things that they say. They have to have all these things in place to reinforce the lie, don't they? Wow. Crazy. Things break, don't they? Especially in the extremes of outer space. Heck, my old truck used to break every 6 months. Well, even sitting in a garage, protected from the elements. How did this spacecraft last 50 years in some of the harshest conditions in existence? I mean, the hot and cold alone would destroy almost anything that they sent up there, including all these rubber parts that they talk about. So it's important to discuss this stuff because if you don't use critical thinking and common sense, you'll simply just believe that these people are telling you the truth. Here you go. Look at this. Space can have a number of effects on rubber, including radiation, temperature. So they admit right here that rubber quickly degrades in space. Oh, but NASA will say, oh, we put a special thing in there. Put a special element in there. Cause it to preserve the rubber. They always have an answer, don't they? Now, let's get into this really creepy Superman golf Trump matrix. Now, for a long time, we've been saying that Trump is the Superman archetype. He keeps rising up from the ashes, doesn't he? No matter what's thrown at him, everything bounces off of him, including bullets. Right? I mean, think about the archetype there. Think about the metaphors. Well, check this out. Yesterday, I screened the Man of Steel Superman movie. You guys remember that? So then I went searching for a sequel for today's show, and I really couldn't find one. I found a prequel, though. Well, it's actually a sequel, but a prequel, if that makes any sense. Superman Returns. This was from 2006. So this was before Man of Steel. But this story is Superman actually coming back. Now, I tried to start watching this movie, and it was so lame, I just had to turn it off. But I'm looking through this, and I find out that the lead actor, who, plays Superman, he has the same last name as the golf shooter. Brandon Routh. Routh. Routh is the same name as the golf shooter. Now, what does all this mean? There's Brandon Routh there. Superman. Here's Ryan Wesley Routh, the Scrooter. What does all this mean? What are the odds of this? Well, it's a pretty rare last name, but that alone wouldn't prove anything, right? Then I thought, there's no way that there's a golf connection to all this, because that would be another piece of evidence that would suggest that all this is just make-believe. So, was there a golf connection connecting the Routh Superman to the golf Routh shooter? There absolutely is. Kevin Spacey, another Diddler, was the one who played Lex Luthor. And according to Screen Rant, the actor drove around the set in his own specially designed golf cart. A Superman doll was tied to the rear of the cart so that he could drag the Man of Steel behind it whenever he zipped around set. So he was dragging Ruth behind a golf cart. Now I know they use golf carts on these sets to move around. I understand that. But think of the odds of that. Now, I found some other odd synchronicities that suggest some kind of foreknowledge. Superman Ruth, let's go back to his Wikipedia page here. This is so creepy. Guess how old he is? He is 44. Guess how old the shooter is? 66. I'm sorry, 58, but born in 66. You guys, 46 is the year Trump was born. So 44 and 66, 46. So these two men are connected by some kind of bizarre matrix, aren't they? Which exposes the lie behind the scrooting at the golf course. Now, if that was all, I still wouldn't have probably done a video of this. But there's something else. Ruth. Remember the movie American Sniper? Everybody remembers the movie American Sniper. In fact, I just screened that movie probably about 2 months ago. And there wasn't much to report at that time, but I'm sure the Holy Ghost actually told me to screen that movie so I could talk to you about it today. Another Ruth connection to a sniper from the film American Sniper. It was a film about the most prolific sniper in military history, and it was a true story. And what ended up happening is this guy came back. His name was Chris Kyle. Everybody remembers this movie. Chris Kyle came back after several tours and several near-death experiences. And guess what finally killed him? A veteran outreach program. Eddie Ray Ruth. The sniper sniped by another sniper. Now, what makes this story interesting is the accuracy of this guy. Now, he was former military. He was a veteran, obviously. But, the Bible doesn't lie when it says if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Chris Kyle, the sniper, killed by Eddie Ray Ruth. So what's up with this name, Ruth? We're going to get down to the bottom of that. Now, one thing to note about this Eddie Ray Ruth guy who killed the American Sniper was he seemed to be mentally ill. This is how they basically depicted him, that he was just crazy. Like, why would he kill a guy that was doing a veteran outreach? And he said some very bizarre things about how he thought that they were excluding him. So he had mental issues. Well, the guy who supposedly was at the golf course hiding out, he also had or seems to have some mental issues. Okay. Now, why wouldn't they make the focus of all of this mental health? Why wouldn't they look at people who have obviously already broken the law with mental health stuff and look at them instead of making this about politics? Why wouldn't they do that? Well, because they know why these people have mental health issues. They're probably the ones causing it. and some kind of secret program. Now, I can't confirm this, but apparently these men who apparently attempted to try to take Trump's life were both working for BlackRock or were in BlackRock commercials. And I can't confirm the second shooter, this other Ruth guy, but this is what I'm hearing is happening. Now, I have one final piece of evidence, and now you're starting to see the story and how it all comes together. Look at this. Actually, let me go back into the chat because I want to see if one of you guys gets the answer. Where this golf sniper was apparently found was in an area of the golf course known as the Ruff. Now, I played a little golf back when I was in my 30s, and you never wanted to hit the ball into the rough, did you? You never wanted to hit the ball into the rough because it's really hard to get it out. Now, the rough can include tree lines or anywhere off of the main fairway. Well, let's go into the chat. Because what do you think the name ROUTH means? This ROUTH matrix, ROUTH. What do you think that name actually means? Take a wild guess and you'll probably get the answer. And this was the final piece of evidence that I found that made me want to do a video on this today. Because the odds of all this happening is 1 in millions. What do you think the name ROUTH actually means? And then I'll show it to you. All right, I'm in the chat, you guys. Now, this is important because this helps people to wake up. They realize that all of this is just scripted reality. What do you think the name ROUTH means? All right. Answer. Oh, my goodness. The name ROUTH means rough. Rough ground. Let me show it to you here. I couldn't believe this. But sure enough, that's what it is. Let me turn off this. Hold on, you guys. Turn off maintenance. Having some issues with my OBS right now. So I'm turning off the maintenance. That'll help the computer focus so we can get a good stream. All right, let me show this to you. This is shocking. Now, this one thing alone, I actually told one of my sleep friends about the name ROUTH and how it means golf rough. I got no response. Because in their mind, it's too shocking. They think this is complete, coincidence. Rough ground is what ROUTH means. The golf rough. Wow. Now, switching gears here, by now you've probably already heard that a bunch of pager bombs went off in the hands of Hezbollah and anyone standing around them. So there was a lot of collateral damage. I think this story is worth mentioning because of all the symbolism behind it. Let's get into some of that stuff right now. Wow. Now, here's the event here. I just looked it up in Wikipedia. There's lots of news coverage going on. 2024 Lebanon pager explosions. This happened, let's see, yesterday. And so why are we covering this? Well, there was a lot of Apollo symbolism. The pager company was actually called Gold Apollo. Here it is right here. The Gold Apollo pagers. And thanks to the subscriber who gave me this information because I didn't find this on my own. And so what other Apollo symbolism is there? Well, These pagers weigh 133 grams. And guess what? They blew up at 3:30 in the afternoon. And there's your 66, which is Apollo's signature all over again. Now, here's the question. Apparently, Israel intercepted these packages, these pagers, going to Hezbollah, because Hezbollah had switched gears. They got off of the cell phones because they believed Israel was looking in on their cell phones. And instead, they ordered pagers. Apparently, they ordered them all at once. Israel intercepted the pagers and booby-trapped them to explode. Now, how much explosive material would you have to put into a pager to make it kill somebody and still function as a pager? Right? Aren't these things like as small as possible with the minimum amount of extra space so that the pager could fit in your pocket, right? So where did they put these explosives? There's something not right about this whole story. It just sounds weird. It just sounds weird. And why would Israel do this knowing that they've got an issue with their image right now? Why would they do this knowing that there would be collateral damage? So something's off about this. What are your guys' thoughts about what happened with this pager attack? Gold Apollo. Go back into the chat here. Just weird. Wow. Now, good morning, everybody. I was going to go on to the next story, but what do you guys think about this pager thing that's going on? I think our chat's way behind. Oh, welcome to YouTube. You guys are still talking about the Voyager, the impossible voyage. All right, let's get into this next story. Now, by now everybody's heard Sean P. Diddler in chief, we're going to call him, has been arrested on all kinds of charges, including trafficking and all kinds of weird stuff. You guys, things are going off the rails. And no doubt he is a monster. This guy is a monster. We all know this. He's been arrested and he's probably never going to get out of prison because of all the charges that have been filed against him. He had these massive sex parties, and apparently people were kidnapped and forced to do certain things. I mean, this guy was a sex fiend and did all kinds of crimes. They found weapons with the serial number shaved off of it. I mean, he's never getting out at this point. There's no way out of this for him. But here's the question. Where were all these investigations into the hundreds, if not thousands, of Epstein's customers that were in the black book and that flew on a plane named after an abused child? I mean, let's all be honest here. All the people, they couldn't find one person to indict. There was no evidence of all those people. The only people that went to jail was Epstein and Ghislaine. And we don't even know if that's completely true because we haven't seen real images of these people. So, to me, this looks like a cover-up or to shift the blame or shift what's going on, what really happened, to cover up what happened with all this. Now, I'm not going to get into the sordid details of all this, but needless to say, it gets pretty crazy. They're talking about 1,000 bottles of lube that were confiscated. And there's also inferences that P. Diddy went both ways. So it's just a Very bizarre story, you guys. Very crazy. Now, I'm sure what everyone's waiting on is video footage or other names listed of movie stars that were involved in this. And I'm telling you right now, we're probably not going to get any names. All that will be sealed up. They'll say, oh, that would crash the movie industry. Well, in today's day and age, people would probably go see more movies. They found out one of the people that they liked was at one of these parties and they had video of them. That's the world we live in now, you guys. So I'm not going to read this whole story. There's lots and lots of details surrounding the case. I'll put a link to this, of course, but I wanted to show you the story and give you the update on what's going on with this. Now, a couple more stories for you guys today. They're now saying that polio is coming back. Look at this. NBC News. They just call it a virus that causes paralyzing illness is spiking in the U.S. Apparently, they're looking at our wastewater. Looking at our wastewater. And this is what they found. Now, many of you remember that we did lots and lots of research into the polio vaccine. Now, why were we looking at the polio vaccine? Well, it was the centerpiece of the World's Fair in 1939. Back then, they just called it a virus as well, a debilitating virus that caused people's limbs to shrink. And this was right before they went on this mass polio vaccination campaign. We saw also at that World's Fair that the needle and the bolus were also precursors and programming to mass vaccination. And in fact, that did happen. We also noted that the word polio is Apollo. So Apollo causes the disease and then gives the cure. Well, let's read this. A respiratory virus that sometimes paralyzes children is spreading across the U.S., raising concerns about another possible rise in a polio-like illness. Now, we all know what's causing this paralysis. We all know. We can't say it, but we all know. But they're going to tell us this cover story that wastewater samples have detected a significant escalation in the enterovirus called D68, which in rare cases has been linked to acute flaccid myelitis. The illness affects the nervous system and causes severe weakness in the arms and legs. And this occurs in young children. We're detecting this in the wastewater across the country now. And the levels are increases as if they don't know where it's coming from. That's the first clue to suggest that the nation might see an increase in AFM, acute flaccid myelitis, which is a polio-like disease. They're anticipating that our children are going to come under attack. Look at this, you guys. Wastewater concentrations, August 2024, and look at the spike. August 2024. Look at the spike and what they are saying is the wastewater concentration. Now, again, we're just reading between the headlines here. I'm not saying that what they're saying here is true. I'm saying they're preparing us. They're disclosing to us that our children are going to be basically paralyzed. Now, how did it happen? What's different about August of this year compared to other years? I don't know the answer to that. We are well past the pandemic. But what other catalyst was there that could have caused this spike? It says here, historically, September has been the biggest month for these kinds of cases. Anyone who's ever had the sniffles probably had an enterovirus. They're not common. Most of the time, the viruses cause mild symptoms, runny nose, cough, headache. The D68 enterovirus strain started causing more serious problems in 2014, when the U.S. saw for the first time a spike in pediatric AFM. 120 children were diagnosed. So they call it a viral mystery. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Here's our last story for today. Look at the irony of this. China freezing U.S. assets. Wow. China hits 9 U.S. firms with property freeze. Why? Because they sold weapons to Taiwan. Oh, the irony. Why don't we ever freeze Chinese assets? Now, I heard some grumblings about our governor here in Arkansas claiming to go after Chinese properties. I'll have to dig into that to see if this actually is happening. Because I wouldn't think a governor would have that power. But who's in control here? You got China freezing assets, owning all this land in America. Wow. Welcome to Clown World. All right, I'm coming back in here into the chat, you guys. Try to let this catch up. I got all kinds of cool footage for you guys for the Honey Milk Ranch. For those of you that go to the backup channel, had some bucks come in. Gosh, 10 yards outside my bedroom window. They completely ignored all the corn on the ground further down the hill where they would be safe. Apparently a bunch of acorns are falling, and they prefer acorns over corn. So I just turned the feeder off. So I got some footage of the feeder, the electric feeder. I've also got some footage of a brand new shop organizing project that I did, a low-cost shop organizing project. So I found a way around using pegboard and found some really cheap hooks and fittings. So I'll show that to you guys as well. And I caught a cool rainbow on film right outside the window. So all that's going to be in the weekend show. That's when we do the Honey Milk Ranch on like Saturday. So, okay, I'm back in the chat, you guys. Yeah, crazy, right? The Ruth Matrix. Ruthless, says Joy. What are the odds? Mental illness. Yeah, I'm thinking that is the link as well. The Ruth link has to be the mental illness. And think about it. The fact that the name means rough. Okay, let's think this through. Because we just found all these different weird synchronicities, didn't we? To me, the common theme seems to be the person hiding in the rough. The person you'd least expect, right? And so doesn't that fit in with the guy at the golf course and the guy that, the sniper took to the gun range? That was the last person he would have ever expected. It's the person hiding in the background, right? And even the Superman Ruth character, it was like the lamest Superman. He was the one that nobody really wanted to go see. It was like one of the worst Superman movies. Everyone liked the other Supermen who played their roles in the movies, but he was the one off in the rough. So there's a common theme, isn't there? Common theme. So Ruth means misery, sorrow, and grief. Yes. Ruthless. The shooter names are never an accident. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that was crazy, huh? Yeah. You guys want to do a poll before we get off of here? The Ruth Matrix. All right. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. I'm actually going to do a ride along with my friend Mike, and we're going to go check meters today, water meters. So he works for the water department. So he's like, hey, you want to do a ride along? I'm like, sure. Because I'm on the water department now. Got like a water situation going on out here. I talked to you guys a little bit about it on the previous shows, but apparently we are insolvent. We can't really pay our bill because of the massive amount of water main breaks that we've experienced even before I got here. And so we're trying to figure out a plan with the USDA. You would never imagine how much involvement the government has in water supply. And that was the reason why I joined the water board, so I could get a snapshot into all of this, an inside look about how water rights work. And apparently the government is all over water. The state, the feds, and what they do is they hand out loans that then small communities can't pay back, and then the feds just take control of your water. So this is concerning. It's a trend. And so I'm going to dig down into this, but yeah, I'm going on a ride along. I have no idea how long it's going to take, but I might learn something from it. So yes, Apollyon. Yes, R. Jones. Yep, you are awake. Polio is Apollo. The disease and the cure. That's what Apollo did to bring people into his control. And he would require sacrifice. It was called a hecatomb. And it was basically a large number of cattle. I think it was 100 cattle or 500 cattle that he required in order for him to give the cure. This is all in ancient mythology. So anytime you hear Apollo, understand that Apollo made the disease and offered the cure. It's part of the control. Okay. So, all right, you guys, have a great rest of your day. Take care.